Someone make one for Jesus. I'm like, I want one. So I put it on my lanyard. Who's got some?
Oh, I printed something out and then I left it at home. Oh, my cheat sheet. I think it's still, I can get it on Drive. Let's hope. Oh, it spells here. That's good.
You're muted if you want to say hi.
Isabella, are you there?
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Isabella. Good to see you.
Hi.
Excellent. So that works.
Isn't that amazing? Just did it for granted. That's where she is.
Hello. Hi. So much for everything. For sure. I am not rested anymore. Yeah. Actually, what I should just switch chairs.
Good, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
How good? How about yourself? Good.
You gonna do a dance?
Oh, my goodness.
I like the two guys in the
Oh, just one way. Oh, but it won't be like. What's the middle name?
Yeah. Actually.
All right.
Yeah, so we were going to do this. All right, what do you need? So we're just gonna need here. It's like the same type of same program.
Okay, Lakewood, Elwood, I'm standing here.
Artist.
Artist, you like,
He just.
Okay, so we're just waiting for Jeff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he made.
We have three, so can we start? We have a form. We can start with just the three of us.
Yeah, and if we know who might be waiting.
He might be.
Okay.
Well, no, I just know the restaurant, but that's how I handle it.
Yeah.
You don't know the restaurant.
He was talking to me. He went to.
Really?
Okay.
Good contact.
Wait, this is. Okay, it is now 6:01 and I'm calling to order this regular board meeting of the Sunnyvale School District Board of Education. This meeting is available in English and Spanish. With this translator, please give instructions on translation services available.
Absolutely. Buenas noches. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación de esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración. Good evening. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in this Zoom meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you for your attention and collaboration.
Thank you. Please note the recording is being made at the direction of the board and that the recording may capture sounds of those attending the meeting. I see that we have 3 board members here. Trustee Arnett is running a little late. So we're just going to go ahead and start the meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, item 2 is approval of the agenda. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, which is just the approval of the agenda, please use the raise hand feature now. See no. Okay, no raised hands online, none in the boardroom. I'm not seeing any. Board, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of tonight's agenda as listed.
Is there, Isabel, can you second?
I think you're muted.
Yes, I second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion about the agenda? None, okay. Welcome, Jeff. Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, and with that, the motion passes. We're on to item 3, public comment on study session items. Our study session will be on Sunnyvale School District home to school transportation. The time limits allocated to public testimony are 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes for public comments. Speakers are asked to give their name and affiliation so that an accurate record is reflected in the minutes. Per our board bylaw 9323, the board shall not prohibit public criticism of its policies, procedures, programs, services, acts, or omissions. During public comment, we encourage speakers to discuss issues with civility, to treat people whose opinions differ from their own with respect, and to focus on ideas, policies, and values. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this issue? Please use the raise hand feature if you're online. Okay, seeing none, we have Brent Burns, Director of Facilities and Operations, to introduce this topic to us. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, board members, members of the executive cabinet, as well as members of the public and colleagues. Tonight is the start of a conversation regarding home to school transportation here in Sunnyvale. All the information that's going to be presented this evening has been part of a multi-department collaboration, which has been energizing, as well as reaffirmed the fact of why we all want to work for a school district, and that's to positively benefit our students. Yeah, if you want to switch it. Cool. All right, sorry. So tonight we'll be reviewing Senate Bill 878, as well as state funding that's going to be coming down for transportation. We will be taking a deeper dive into the current board policies that we have adopted here in Sunnyvale, as well as the students that would be impacted if those policies were in practice. We will then go into all of our current busing practices. That is to help the board evaluate this process to better understand what it would take to implement the new plan. We'll go over our current capabilities because there's no way to evaluate this proposed plan without knowing what our max capabilities would be. I will touch on the proposed plan, and then lastly, I will bring up Jonathan Watts, who's been an integral part in this whole thing, analyzing and looking at the metrics that we're able to capture now that we have a plan in place. And as I get started, I do want to say this has become a passion project for everybody involved. We really look forward to implementing this. We're just at the point where we're going to need the board to have discussion on how we would prioritize the registration process. So everything that I present tonight is to help you guys evaluate this process and hopefully be able to prioritize how we would register students for transportation. So Senate Bill 878 was the kind of catalyst that kicked everything off, right? This bill was very strongly worded saying that, districts must offer transportation to all students. So this kind of lit a fire under a lot of districts and made them look at their transportation departments and their practices. This bill has been made it through the Senate, is in the Assembly, has been redlined to death, and is a mere shell of what it originally intended to be. So we will monitor this, but it is not the original, there's not the original teeth in it that we originally had thought. Future state funding. This is a fun one. With all the budget surplus at the state level, Governor Newsom has allocated categorical funding to districts, one of them being funding transportation. Regardless of your LCFF standing, we here at Sunnyvale would be able to recoup 60% of our eligible transportation costs ongoing year over year. Right now, that's an estimated $440,000. It does not require any sort of expansion or plan or anything else on our part. That would just be given to us year over year. Now, I want to dive into current board policies because there are a few surrounding transportation. The one I want to highlight is Board Policy 3541. This sets up constraints in regards to the distances students would be eligible, this sets up max distances students could live away from a campus before they would qualify for transportation. This has been adopted since 1990. Talking with Denise, this has never been in practice. I couldn't tell you why, but this has never been in practice here at the district, at least for the last 16 years. With the work with Jeremy and our demographer, we are able to capture every student that is enrolled in our district with these parameters set out. And so we can see how many students would qualify if we were to go by this board policy. It is a staggering number at just under 2,000, and that is broken down here. On this slide, you will notice that they're color coded. That is to highlight PM bell schedules, dismissal. I'll go into more of that in the proposed plan, but this is to show you where and how many students would qualify from each one of these campuses. And I'm glad I put that note there because I forgot. This presentation is predicated around homeschool transportation, is not going to overflows, not go into programs of choice. We don't talk about McKinney-Vento students here. They would always remain priority number one. We'd always provide transportation. Now, I wanted to break this down into a graph, kind of show you a little bit better representation of where these students are coming from. 3 of the top 4 schools that would have students qualifying do not currently have any transportation to them. That is CMS, Cumberland, and Cherry Chase. And moving towards these graphs, I wanted to highlight these. These are specifically Sunnyvale Middle School and Columbia Middle School. I know they're a little bit hard to see, but every blue dot that you see on that map represents a student that would qualify by that board policy 3541. The reason why I focus on middle schools here is because that's the widest enrollment area for our district, right? These are 2 middle schools that take up the rest of our district. These students have the furthest walking distance of any in the district. For Columbia Middle School, you have students that would theoretically have to travel over 2.5 miles to each school. Sunnyvale Middle School, you have students that live upwards of 3.5 miles. That's just a snapshot for you. We have these maps for every one of our campuses if the board is interested in seeing those as well. Now, going into current busing practices. We transport students that live in designated safety areas. There's no policy or AR that I could find. However, this is set forth in our transportation plan that's in our student handbooks. These 6 zones that are indicated in red here feed into schools such as Vargas, SMS, Lakewood, San Miguel, Bishop, and Ellis. If you take the students that live in those zones, you would have 150 to 200 students that would qualify. The reason why that's a range and an estimate is because so far we haven't had a registration process for transportation. So these are all estimates based off of numbers given by our transportation team. This is something that we will address later in a proposed plan as well. 365 students would qualify looking at those zones that are set forth already. Going into our current capabilities. There's no way to evaluate the plan unless we look at our current capabilities. And I want to emphasize and really highlight our transportation team, being Lydia, Barbara, Nikki, and Denise. None of this is possible without them. Like, I would not be up here presenting a proposed plan if I did not have them behind me backing up this plan and being for it. They understand what it's for. They know the message. They want to impact their students as well. So that's why I wanted to emphasize. Almost 50 years of experience amongst the 4 of them in Sunnyvale alone. It's pretty impressive. Now, jumping into constraints. I go over the bus capacities, right? Smaller students were able to fit up to 78 kids on a bus. Larger students, we drop it down to 52. Buses get very crammed when you have larger students. That's policy, that's just what we've done. So that's as many students can fit on a bus based off grade level. All right, going into the main constraint, PM dismissal times. A drop-off route takes anywhere from 35 to 55 minutes. You can see in the elementary schools, you have a 15-minute separation from the schools located on the north of the district and the schools located on the south. There is no efficient way to do a drop-off route on the north side and to go down to the south side and pick up those students and drop them off. You would have students waiting for 40, 50 minutes after the bell rings. Same thing goes with the middle schools. However, they're not impacted by the elementary schools. You still cannot dedicate all of our resources to one campus without having the other campus wait a long time to get picked up. All right, moving on a little bit further into the proposed plan. We would have a registration process set up with a max capacity for each campus to enroll students for transportation. This would allow us to increase security and transparency. Our drivers would know exactly who's going to be on their bus every single day. We would be able to more efficiently communicate with parents because, say, a bus was late, we know exactly the students and the families of those that are on that bus, and we can message them immediately from the site. Again, this increases security because our drivers will know who's on their bus and where they're getting off. The other part of this proposed plan is that we are able to add a 5th driver, if we find a 5th driver, due to Lori's budgeting. We are able to add a driver because the way she has budgeted for our department, we can take on that additional salary and not negatively impact our budget. So I did want to highlight that. As part of the proposed plan, I just wanted to show the board general numbers. These campuses on the left show where we currently provide transportation. So if you were to set up max registrations, this is roughly what it would look like. You would have a specified number of students that would be able to register from each campus. And again, same thing with Columbia and Sunnyvale Middle School. And now, this is something I'm really excited about, but I do not have the knowledge to speak to it that well. So I'm going to bring Jonathan up because I would embarrass myself if I tried.
Oh, you do fine. Okay, so this has been super exciting. As you know, I like doing things with data. And even more if, I'm not the decision maker, but it's just like, I like when people ask questions, I'm like, yes, let me find out some information to inform your discussion on that. So that's what I did for this one. So in conversations with him, we were kind of playing around with this idea and saying, okay, what metrics might we be able to look at to help inform this decision? So one of the things that having this demographer provide a data sheet, I was able to look pretty easily at by mileage. So how far away the students. So I kind of put them in based on that policy more or less. I looked at like those over 1 mile from the school walking distance, and then those that are within 1 mile of the school. And then I compared the far away, so I'm calling them far away and not far away. And so I compared the first period.
What's the far away?
So that's over a mile. So if they live over a mile, they're in the far away.
Okay, so a mile or more. is far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
students that will qualify for transportation based off board policy
That's awesome.
35.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I looked at, I pulled their first period tardy. I did absences too. I don't know if I put that on here, but because that's what is going to be impacted, right? If they don't have. So I was looking at their first period and trying to see how is this even an issue right now? Like, what are we really seeing? And so I did really quickly see an issue or a discrepancy between the two. So you can see at CMS, I can't see that close or far away. So there was, 63, 43, I think was the difference between the far away and not far away. So this is just looking over the full year, and there was a big difference there if you were living further away. SMS, I think, was even a slightly greater difference between those that are living close and those that are living far and their tardy rate. So another thing, as we were talking about this, and I was kind of just asking questions because I'm also generally just curious about stuff, even if it's not really my purview. So I was asking him what might the prioritization look like? Oh, yes, I will go slower. And so, sorry, I get excited and talk fast. So he had just said, well, there might be a lot of factors that play into it. And so, just one of the first things that you might think is, maybe we prioritize those that are furthest. That's just a real quick thought, like top of the head, let's see that. So then I just thought, what if I pull in like, okay, let's run with that. And I know that we talked about like socioeconomic status might be a factor. So I just pulled really quickly looking at socioeconomic status. And so what I noticed was actually like, if that were, let's focus on socioeconomic status, and we really want to serve that as one of the priorities. I noticed it was not exactly what I would have predicted. So at CMS, those that live closer, it actually comes out to let me see where it is. The far away students. Okay, let's start there. So CMS, those that live further away from campus, there's a higher socioeconomic disadvantage status compared to those that live close. So those that are living, did I say that backwards? Those that are living close are socioeconomically disadvantaged more at CMS than those that live farther away, just in general when you're running the numbers overall. SMS, it was actually the opposite.
You just hit pause to make sure I'm understanding. So like that bottom left side, that's saying whatever the number is, like 37 or something % of
those far away. So the tardies were higher with those that lived closer, I believe, than those that live.
So I'm sure
far
with the socioeconomic status, it's connected to the tardies as well?
Yes, yeah, I ran tardies based on
Okay.
socioeconomic status. And so, oh yeah, that's what the little Y is. So I just looked at those that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, those families, and I looked
So
at
they
their-
actually, the socioeconomic disadvantaged who are farther away were less late than the ones who were closer.
Okay, let me try this a different way. Sorry, this is,
So the question is this the bottom graph, does that relate to tardiness, or is it just showing that?
yes, tardiness. So you'll notice the two, so it's all socioeconomically disadvantaged, but those that live close that are socioeconomically disadvantaged versus those that are socioeconomically disadvantaged that live further away, looking at their the impact versus tardiness. Okay, so the gist of it, what I found is that they're polar opposites. This will help if I explain the second part of it. So at SMS, because you can see the colors are different. So at SMS, the further away that you get from SMS, there is a high rate of socioeconomically disadvantaged families. Further away that you get from SMS. That could also be, like the closer you get to SMS, closer you're getting to Cupertino, higher housing costs, things like that. CMS, it was the opposite though. So those that are the most socioeconomically disadvantaged in general live closer to the school at CMS, whereas those living closest to the school at SMS, it's not a high rate of socioeconomically disadvantaged families. So what it really came down to is if we wanted to prioritize families that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, if we just went with let's serve those furthest away, it's not always the case. So like if at SMS we were to say, if we didn't look at that data, socioeconomically disadvantaged families, and we just said, yeah, let's serve those that are furthest away, just regardless of anything else, let's serve those that are furthest away. So at SMS, we would be serving more families, a higher percentage of families that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, which would be great, you know. But at CMS, we would not be doing that. We'd actually be doing the opposite. We'd be serving those that are not as socioeconomically disadvantaged. If we just went straight with those that live furthest away, just because of proximity, housing prices, things like that in the San Diego area. So it was interesting. So and the reason that I bring this up is just I want to kind of like, as you guys are discussing, I'm going to be listening for like priorities, things here, because then what I'm able to do is just run data to help inform. So if you had said, like this is one that I just figured might come up, that we say socioeconomic disadvantage status might be something we look into, then I can run that data and just help inform the decision. Because sometimes there's surprising trends, things that we might think, we might assume one way, but until we actually start to look at the data, you know, it may be different than we thought. So that's kind of where that is.
And so that's all to say, like with a registration process now and student information that we're able to attain with work from the demographer as well as Jonathan, we can give anybody information on who we are impacting and how we're making a difference, whether it's decreasing tardy rates, whether it's decreasing absences, dependent on whatever the prioritization may be. So it's powerful. Like it really is powerful. I'm glad you spoke to that.
Yeah, even like English learners, which is sometimes tied to other factors also. That was one that I just ran, I didn't include, but you can see the two schools are different. So if you were to look at those furthest away, one school furthest away, you're gonna have higher percentage of English learners, but the complete opposite at the other middle school. If we're just targeting those furthest away, it's actually the lowest percent of English learners that live further away. So more English learners live close to the school. So it's just ideas to think about. So as you're having this discussion, I'm gonna be listening and thinking like, I hear a data point there that I can run that would help inform that. This next one's just kind of fun. So I thought, well, let's just take a step further. I already know this is impactful, but I thought I can find a weather report online and pull that data. So I looked at the most rainy day. I took one rainy day in December. It was the most rainy day in San Diego. We don't get a lot of rain, so it was actually hard to find. But I found a day when we got like an inch of rain, and you can put in the actual like location. So I put in the coordinates for SMS and CMS, and both of them were raining during first period, because I can even go down to the time. And then I chose the closest day to that had no rain. So I wanted to kind of eliminate all other factors as much as I could. This is just an approximation. And so you can see the impact and how it changes. So on a rainy day, this is just one given day, but on that day I chose, look at the difference between those that lived forward. So 6% of those that lived far away were tardy on that day versus on a just one day that was sunny, just like a week apart, it's a very, very small difference. I mean, that makes sense. Like it's raining first thing. So you might be like, let me see if it stops. A lot of middle schoolers are also left to their own to walk to school. You know, parents might be working. It's raining out. You might think, I'll go a little late. Maybe just the rain will stop and I'll go in. So yeah, this is more of a fun one. But if you want more weather, I can do that. Just let me know. Okay, that was it. That was my part. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right. So in conclusion, our team has enjoyed the process. We've enjoyed the complex paradigm that we're trying to change. We look forward to continuing this process and like ironing out details. I will speak on behalf of our department and I guess as a district as a whole. We are committed to increasing our home to school transportation. And I know that every department that has had input on this project is behind the movement. Like we're here for it. Whatever we need to do, we're excited about it. So in closing, what we would like the board to discuss tonight with the information given and any information that you'd like from me moving forward is a prioritization list for registration of our students. Some of those priorities are listed at the bottom there in no particular order. Safety zone areas, walking distances, grade levels, socioeconomic factors, English language learners, all things that I know are key to the district in our mission. We will just spread a point where we need a little guidance and discussion at this point. So that is that. Any questions?
I have a clarifying, I have a clarifying question.
Yes.
Before we get into discussion. When you said that Lori has in our budget protected a space for an additional driver, a fifth driver.
Yes.
Is that for this calendar year or are you talking about next year?
Immediately. We have the position posted currently.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Could we get Isabel back on the screen and then,
Yeah, I have a question, and I don't know why my changed, so I cannot raise my hand. Maybe I'll find it.
Isabel, go ahead.
So yeah, so when are these funds gonna be there or here? Well, at the
So
district,
it is,
starting to have it.
sorry, it is slated to start the school year 2023.
Oh, okay, and we will be prepared then by then.
Well, she was asking about funds. I don't know what funds you're referring to, Isabel.
The ones from the governor, isn't it? The one that they're approved.
The
60%.
Yeah, the state funding, the 60% of our total transportation costs, those funds will be available to start the 2023 school year.
So this is about the possibility, or well, not the possibility, about starting this more comprehensive program next year. Nothing's going to happen here.
Yes, it would be, yes, this is a discussion to try to implement this as a pilot program over the summer of next year to fully implement the start of the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay. Is there any discussion or options to bring kids who may be needing a bus to the schools of choice among the needy kids, like the kids who go to San Miguel, for example?
Was the question, is there a discussion about it?
Yeah, if there is a possibility, because normally we don't give a bus for kids who are on the school of choice. So that's one of the parents' side, like, no way. But is this gonna integrate those kids too?
So we would be open to any discussions. Currently, the way we presented the information tonight, this is not taking into account programs of choice. Speaking with the transportation team, once you start integrating programs of choice, depending on the routing, things can get very convoluted and difficult to efficiently move students across districts to programs of choice. So it's a conversation that we're open to, definitely. But as far as this presentation went, we were not factoring that in.
Okay, thanks.
Well, even though we have multiple programs of choice, we only really have two where people are really moving. I mean, we might have a few at every school, but Fairwood and Cerritos would be the big two, right? And then that would also put it to CMS, right? Possibly.
I guess just on that, and Denise is looking right at me, so I have to be careful what I say about just developing bus routes. But if you think about it, it wouldn't be possible to develop a bus route from 7 schools to 1 school.
Yeah.
Right? So, but there might be some way to make it better, right? And that we could put that in the mix, but that's gonna really make things. It
would be a very tricky dynamic.
Yeah, it would just be perhaps another priority that we would think about in the mix. If you did that, you would deprioritize something else, perhaps.
Did you take a look at how much it would cost for us to implement the program? Like how many buses we would need to implement the program based on the AR that we have?
Oh.
Based on the 1 mile thing?
Yeah,
Like to
that many.
transport
kids, like
2,000
we're talking like
students?
a fleet.
No, I did not look into the cost of that.
I also think 1 mile is not that far. Like even if we were trying to do more kids, I think the 1 mile is too small of
Well, and I think it depends on the what they're crossing and like the safety zones and stuff like that, so. I was just wondering, like, if you just said like, hey, we'd actually need 20 buses or something for that amount of kids.
No, so to answer your question, no, I did not look into the total cost. I did not look into the total. I am more than happy to. I would assume it'd be staggering.
I think it's worth the time too.
No.
But you brought up a point that I was supposed to bring up in the presentation in regards to like walking distance and safe travel. So the north, I don't know, the presentation up. The north safety zone is the one that transports kids to Lakewood. These transport zone.
So we actually want to hop onto that because I had some questions about the safety zone. So
Yeah.
Isabel, sorry that we're not going to see you for a minute. So since you're talking about it anyways, and I have some questions about it.
No, and I had to bring up up and I totally lived through
So
them.
Isabel, we're gonna go back to the presentation, so we're not gonna see you just for a minute.
But we can hear you.
Yeah, so feel free to just start talking if you need to.
So much
Jump in.
adrenaline going, I forget to like touch on all the points, but one of the points I'm glad I get to make now is the northernmost safety zone. That's the one that Lakewood students live in that qualify for safety transportation to Lakewood. Students from Columbia live in that area as well. They do not get transported to Columbia because there is a walking bridge over 101. So technically there's a safe route to school. All these other zones are set up such that students do not have to cross railroads and or major thoroughfares. That was
But now,
two bullets. that I wrote.
how far is that? Like, that's safety zone for those kids who live up there?
So depending on where they are.
Yeah,
And if I go up to, oh, sorry.
there was that other one where you had the,
Yeah, so, you know, at most, or at least you'd have 1 mile, students that live there that are 1 mile away. There are a lot of students that qualify from CMS in that safety zone area.
How are we getting the students from the shelter to school? Is the typical bus or that's a special service apart?
Great question. It is typical bus. We
Okay.
pick up.
And is there, I heard, I don't know if we have numbers of that there are some students that go in and out of homelessness and end up living in their cars. Is there anything that we can gather of that and try to help in those situations? A center where they can walk and then we'll pick them up or something?
So I will say that we pick up from the homeless shelter. If there were students that were living in cars, if they were in the general proximity to the homeless shelter, they could walk to the homeless shelter and we pick them up. We will, yeah. And I don't know how to find other information on if students live in.
Jeremy can help.
Okay.
Isabel, yeah, so in addition to the students experiencing homelessness that are at the shelter, we also try to place, the school of residency close to wherever they happen, their temporary housing maybe as well. So there's another equation to that. Not all students experiencing homelessness are at the shelter. So we do try to utilize our 10 school sites as well as proximity to try to support that as well. So does that help that context? And then, one other part is that the Student Services Department also support, if the family also happens to have transportation resources, we do provide reimbursement as well. So there's a couple of different options.
And just to add to that, actually, the majority of our students like that often have such variability in where they are that the transportation location is often changing month to month, week to week. So that's why that's directly in our department to kind of coordinate with families individually.
Okay.
did you want to add on to?
Okay, so if you could just help me with the safety zone areas.
Mhm.
Just like, I don't quite understand how those are created, like how are those, just, I just want to understand it, right? So how are those created, how is that decided? Like that look like the little red squares, right? So if you could just kind of walk us through that briefly, that'd be great.
I will walk it through as best as I can because I was not a part of creating them.
Yeah.
But those were created because, for instance, speaking to the red area on the furthest left of the screen, those are all Vargas or SMS students that would have to cross El Camino to get to, cross the train tracks to get to Vargas or SMS.
Okay.
So these are set up based upon like major thoroughfares or hazardous walking conditions.
So then like that middle red one is probably,
That is Fair Oaks, that little red one?
is that people crossing the train tracks to come to Ellis?
Yes.
Then what about the one on the far right that's like that? That would be Ellis kids, but why? Is it
Bottom,
because they're
bottom right,
crossing Wolf?
bottom right.
Yeah,
I think that's train tracks as well.
the train tracks are north of that section actually.
Yeah, the long section at the bottom right.
Yeah, but I think those students all go to Ellis, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
So it might be Wolf.
okay.
Would Wolf be considered a business street?
Yeah.
possibly?
So that's how,
Okay.
to the best of my understanding, that's how these are set
Yeah,
up.
and then that little red one would probably be Lawrence, and then. So that little bit of red below the freeway, would that be
That's
Lakewood kids who need to go to their secondary?
Yep. Exactly.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, then my other question, not related to that, so I don't think I need that anymore. If we, that 60% piece, if we were to increase our spending this year, before that, would that 60% number go up, right? Like say we increase our spending by 200,000 this year.
Yep,
And
it's
then you're
proportionate every year,
60%.
60%.
Okay, so there might be a reason to try to increase our spending for it this year to get reimbursed more. I don't know, maybe that's not.
And that is something I have to defer to Lori, because I don't know if it's based off of the year-end close of last year, or if it's the year-end close of 2022. I'm not sure which way.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at that. So we're not getting, if you spend $1, we don't get $1 back, we
Yeah.
get 60 cents back, right? But the other way to look at that is we're getting virtually nothing. Now,
Yes,
we are getting a little
a
bit.
little, but
Yeah,
We're getting a little bit back. And so there's, would you say it was $440,000?
I'm gonna say estimated $440,000.
Just based on our current
Yes.
spending. So like, maybe that's an amount that we can.
and then if we kept our budget the same, so then in theory.
Yeah.
We get $400,000 back, we now have $400,000 that we can.
We're better
If
off,
we chose to, well, that we could put into increasing our transportation stuff.
right? Because we're
If
used
we
to,
wanted to keep using. the
we're
same
used to not
budget
getting
amount.
reimbursed for it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what would that buy us?
$440,000, roughly a bus, give or take.
And you mean like a bus driver,
No, just a bus.
but we have.
No, I know, but we have 8 buses. I was just saying, because to answer that question.
Yeah, that was my question. We have 8 buses but 4 drivers, and we're gonna hire one.
Yes, so if the question is how many drivers we could increase based off $440,000, I would need to defer to Lori and look
Lori, yeah.
at that.
I would guess. we can do at least.
So I'm wondering if, I don't see John, is Jonathan still there?
Oh, hey.
Hey, Jonathan, did you make one of those, like, forget what you call those graphs, like a quadrant graph, where it's like, hey, these people are, like, this population, you know how you make those fancy graphs sometimes?
Yeah, you make fancy graphs.
Yeah, like, you know, the ones where it says, like, it really would identify some, like, the priorities where it's like, okay, these people are really far away, these are the 3-mile people, the 2-mile people, whatever, and they're socioeconomically disadvantaged, like,
Totally.
you know what I mean? Like, so we could say like, okay, these are our lines and these are the people who are tardy and later and struggling with transportation, but the priority would go to, it's like anybody could apply for it, right? Like you could put your name in, and if people who are far away and low income and multilingual families and none of them really wanted transportation for some reason, like your name is there, like you're gonna get in, you're gonna get a spot. But like if we had to prioritize, I wonder if it's like the people who are farther away and have some other high needs, like that would be like an easier way for us to identify and be like, well, that's obviously who would get the first priority, and how many of those people are there? Do you know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah, okay. So what I'm imagining is like, let's say for one site, I run data for the like 1 mile to 2 mile, like that group, and I'll show you the number and percent. I think it's nice to see both, but number and percent that live within like further than a mile, less than 2 miles. And I'll tell you like how many ELs, how many families are socioeconomically disadvantaged, all the factors like that. Then I'll run 2 to 3. So the furthest away, and I can tell you the percent and number of those same, like whatever factors you want to see. And then I could run that for each school. Because what it's sounding like is, you know, they're not gonna be able to run around to all of the schools, but if there is, I would imagine they're like, if we run that and we see that one school between certain ranges, like the furthest range has like a huge number of our priority students, then it's like, maybe that's where we start. If we are limited in capacity to like, you know, because if it's one bus, depending on the age, 78 or whatever it was, number of students, then that would, because then with this data, you'd be able to kind of match and be like, okay, we have enough buses or extra drivers to serve 78. So then you can look through like furthest at each school and say, because some of them, it might be, there's 24, you know, at this school, 24 at this school. But if there's another school that has in the 2 to 3 mile range, like 78, it's like, oh man, we could serve all of them. Yeah, I like that. I'd do that. Sure.
And then also I would just say that like I'm really hopeful that the Fairwood Lakewood neighborhood kids going to CMS, that we, you know, that that looks like a good option for me. Because I just know that there's a lot of strain on those families and the kids walking, you know?
Well, so to add to that piece, is there a possibility if, well, I'm gonna be hopeful, when we hire this new bus driver that we have posted for, is there a possibility of adding that route, or that, like a route of those kids, like, you know, kids up in that area to CMS sometime this year?
I thought that was the proposal that you had. No, that wasn't a line on there,
Which part of the proposal?
what she just said.
Well, I think most of this stuff is to all be implemented next year, because it takes time to like do this whole process to come up with the system and registration.
Oh, I thought that he said he had for another bus driver this year, but you're
We-
thinking existing route.
No, so I don't know if I'm getting confused.
We're talking.
So,
Yeah.
so yes, we have the budget and ability to hire a driver this year. If and when that driver gets brought on, we would have to reevaluate how things are done and see how they can contribute.
Yes.
So,
Okay, so I think
so-
I think you're answering the question. Did you have more you want to say?
I don't know.
Okay, so I think Bridget and I are saying, the two of us, and all the rest of the board feels, the two of us would love to make that the priority for this year, right? Like, things might change next year, but unless there's something else we're missing, we feel like that would be a priority if we get an extra bus driver.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, so this plan wasn't gonna be rolled out this year, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
But you're saying the priority moving forward, you guys want to prioritize Columbia students that live over in the Fairwood, Lakewood areas to Columbia?
Question.
Yes,
So, did you do that this summer? Did you have that route this summer?
we did.
How'd that go?
I
Like,
told
did
you I was
people
gonna,
tell us?
I think it didn't
Yeah,
go
like-
bad. There was no
Did people
catastrophe.
use
No,
it?
but
Were
was it
they?
used? Yeah,
Wait,
it was a well-used route.
I think we took in 3 buses.
from the woods over to Columbia. So
Three
we,
buses?
we would, let us look into that one.
Well, no,
The route existed.
Oh, we took in-
Sounds like
we took
another
in 3
data
buses
opportunity.
from
Yes,
Glenwood.
there you go.
Only
For John.
one went.
Yeah.
That's
There's a data
what
opportunity.
So what
So-
we're asking is separate from tonight's thing, but it's
Okay.
part of this bigger conversation, right? So
Okay.
what we're saying is, if we get a bus driver this year, like, unless there's something else that staff thinks is more important that we're not seeing, we would love to see that route at least happen this year. As we do this whole bigger thing, maybe that's not something that's part of next year's.
So I hear you, but I would still have to weigh in the priorities because you have more students in those areas than we have capacity on buses. So you would still have to rank
Yeah.
priorities of anybody, even if we could consider doing something like
That's
that.
right.
And that conversation has happened, but we have no plans of it.
So
So
hopefully
if-
tonight would help the possibility of that at least somewhat happening this year.
Yeah, depending on the conversation of tonight, will help us look at what can be done moving forward.
Like,
No, I know I'm skirting the question a little bit.
No,
but-
you're
okay.
because-
I-
No, because, okay, so like, that's the question, like, we did all these experimental, important things that we test out during summer school, we did it during the pandemic, we reinvented school like 10 times, all different ways, right? Like, we did all this stuff and we learned a lot.
Mhm.
And so, like, if that, like, I know Michelle has, I know I have heard from families that live out there, they might not meet all the exact criteria, but they really would really appreciate a bus, and there's, you know, they're not really sure how their kids are gonna go get over there, and it's not really safe to bike, and, you know, all this other stuff, so we heard about it, so I'm glad that during the summer, it was great for summer school, and like, if there's a need and people would use it, then like, that's good for us to hear, that like, well, it was used, so it's not like, well, we did it and nobody even showed up, you know,
Yeah,
so.
anecdotally, I can tell you that like there were families that reached out for sure and were really thankful about it. And were saying, I would not be able to have attended summer school, like I really want that transportation for my student. So, and especially I would say because summer school at the middle school, it was 5th graders, incoming 6th. So they hadn't seen the campus before. They didn't even know the route. Because I did have some when we were still trying to figure out if it was feasible. And it's really amazing that they were able to do that and put that together for summer. But when we were still trying to figure that out, I was in discussion with some families for sure that were saying it's kind of like, this is the make or break, whether or not we have this. We don't have the numbers of exactly how many, because we don't have like the systems he was talking about of tracking exactly who's getting on the bus and how many take, because sometimes it might be that the family will drop off this day, but then the next day will take the bus. So we don't have the exact numbers, but I just know anecdotally that I definitely had families reach out and say what an impact it made, and that enabled them to go to summer school.
Maybe we could see Isabel again. Isabel, do you have anything for?
I do just want to, little caveat to that,
Sure.
and I'm glad the route worked, I'm glad people participated. The summer routing is different than regular school, so I just want to temper that one, because we don't have many schools that we're running.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, there's only a few schools open.
Okay.
Isabel, did you?
And I just wanted to, we probably have like 10-ish minutes, so we probably kind of want to go to his priority stuff. Not just what if I say like, go to the list, unless it's helpful.
No, I'm okay, but somehow the voice of the board, pretty much, Brigitte and Michelle, sounds with a lot of echo, and I cannot hear them very clear, but yeah, that's technical problems. Sorry about that.
Did you get the general gist that Bridget and I were saying that if another bus driver becomes available this year, if it's possible, we would love to prioritize a bus from Lakewood, Fairwood area to CMS, similar like the summer thing, if it's possible.
Yes, I got that part. That's why I was asking the question, when are we planning to start with this? Because I remember the issues from people from Colombia crossing the highway and having to cross all that way to get from Fairwood all the way to there. But yeah, somehow, I don't know, Michelle's voice sounds with even a little bit more echo, but I don't know if the mic is farther or something, but that was more difficult to get. But yeah, thank you for doing the presentation. And so do you think there is the possibility to start that this year, even though we don't have the extra funds?
So the funding is separate. This would have no bearing on the funds, but I do not want to commit to anything starting this year without further discussion and evaluation.
But he knows that we like this idea.
Yes.
Well, but we are already approving the budget. So.
No, yeah, we're not deciding anything tonight, but we're asking them to explore it.
What I'm hearing is that that's, without discussing the other priorities, the highest priority.
Yeah.
Above socioeconomic status, above English language learners, above distance, and it's okay. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I think I'm guessing that, like, for me personally, I think it's a strong hunch, you know, I think it's a strong hunch for a gap that's missing, you know, like a geographic.
I'm not arguing it, I'm just trying to understand.
No, I know,
Yeah.
and so I understand what you're saying, because I wonder, there is part of me that wonders that if we just gave them a minute to like look at all the data, maybe there's this other piece that we're really missing, that we're really not serving, like geographically. It's a strong hunch, we've had feedback, we know it was utilized, like that's all really good, but I would like to maybe see, like, you know, when you get the other bus driver, you know, like that would just be really great to see how we could use, like, yes, we could do, like, maybe one option is a CMS route, and we could impact and help this many people, and then the other option is this other cloud of need that we've just discovered because we ran the numbers a certain way and we think this makes more sense. And I know you guys have to get everything approved through like highway patrol or whatever, like there's lots of, for the route, right? Like you don't just decide your own route and say like, I want to drive that way.
Yep.
Right, so I get it. I get it's complicated, but you know, I'm optimistic and hopeful. And so like, and I'm excited that we're gonna get another bus driver, because, and I'm excited about the kids being having some sort of registration. What I would love is if there's, when you, like, we do lots of things with enrollment already with like prioritization and lotteries, and make sure that like if you know, 2 of my kids are on the bus, the third one can get on the bus as well. Like I know it's gonna be complicated once you start like actually like planning for seats, but you know, I think we can do it, and I absolutely think people perhaps who might not have access to cars and vehicles
like who might be socioeconomically disadvantaged, kids that we absolutely need to support and like make sure that they're in their seat, like the multilingual learners, English learners, Spanish speaking families that are a little underserved in our district. I think those would be big priorities for us, for me, but the rest of the board has to, you guys have to weigh in, use your feedback. Or like if you just had those priorities, what are you thinking?
You want me to go next?
Go ahead.
Okay, I wonder if also putting the list up there might be helpful,
Yeah.
but I think I am looking at it on my stuff here. I mean, so I think the safety zone, I mean, I don't necessarily know my numbers, right, but I would say like the safety zone transportation ones, I think are important ones to consider, right, like, and possibly making sure that we have the right safety zones, like our spots that we missed or whatever.
Mhm.
But I think that's a high priority, and then I think, I mean, the board policy, I think should be changed, like I said earlier, right, I think 1 mile, I mean, maybe elementary school is 1 mile-ish, but like the middle schools, oh, this is what I was asked earlier. Is the 1 mile like, as the crow flies 1 mile?
No, that's how powerful
It's
this,
literally
it's
has
literally the
to-
walking path to.
Okay, so like that's then, right, like a 1 mile walking path to, even like a 1.2 mile walking path to an elementary school, from my perspective, is fine. I think 1.5 to 1.7 to a middle school biking is totally fine. Like we were a little over 2 miles and my kids would usually, I drive them in the morning because we're not morning people and they would bike home, but they did go across the Camino, right? And I am a parent who is less nervous about that, and lots of parents would not let their kids bike across the Camino.
And not all kids have bikes, right?
And so that would, you
Yeah.
know,
But
theoretically
you can
be,
get a bike for like $30, that's how you usually get our bikes.
that'd theoretically be an option, is revising the board policy and adjusting
Yeah,
boundaries.
so I think like the current board policy would not be a priority to me because of how low of a number it is, but if it was a higher number, right, then I think distance, and then socioeconomic. I think this is the ones that she said, right, that, you know, tied in with, you know, English language learners, since we're seeing that's a priority as well.
So I heard safety zone, then I heard students that live, if we were to revise the board
A
policy,
legit farther away.
yep, a further distance
Yeah.
than socioeconomic.
That's not to say the order though, I don't know what my order would be of those three. Those are just my top three.
Okay, all right.
I'll run data on them all and just do that. Here you go.
So like if another board member says, oh, those are my top three and this one is their top one, I'm fine going with
Alright.
whatever of those three as a priority.
Jeff,
What was said a lot, more data would be awesome, but safety is number one. I mean, regardless of what the numbers are, it's the kid traveling a rough route, that would just not be acceptable if something happened. I mean, socioeconomic, it's been my experience, I've been in a lot of schools and I've been tracking, tardies and this and that, I see the same thing, especially the more distance you go, the more significant the tardies and school absences are. I mean, and it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from being late to just, absence, right? So I think I would probably prioritize the socioeconomic with distance. I mean, socioeconomic closely to the school being late, that's a different issue. But I would like to actually remove as many obstacles for students that have historically shown need it.
Well, a good way to put it.
Hey, can we see Isabel again? Sorry.
We're just keeping you busy.
Oh, sorry.
Isabel, what do you think? What are your priorities?
Well, yeah, socioeconomic disadvantaged kids, and but I think the biggest barrier there is crossing the highway for also the kids at Columbia, I think.
like maybe that's a safety zone we missed or something,
But it's saying it's technically not a safety zone because of that walking bridge.
And again, that's something that, we draft up in a policy saying that CMS students living in this pre-designated safety area would now qualify technically.
Yeah.
Can I put something out there?
Yeah.
I would also then say that considering creating a safety zone over in the Fairwoods for CMS students would also be applicable.
Right.
Because there's no safety zone set up over there at all.
Yeah, unless we're saying it's Fairwood and Lakewood.
Yes, so
Because
both.
Fairwood students are even farther from CMS than most.
And they have Lawrence Expressway.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so creating a safety zone as well.
No, I know it's still.
I'll just make a quick note.
So sorry, real quick, Isabel, were yours safety socioeconomic status? Was that 1 and 2?
It sounds like we're pretty.
Yes, yes, those two.
I just want to put on record, Bridget and I were gonna try to do this walk, but someone else did the walk from Lakewood to CMS, and it took 45 minutes to walk it as an adult. That's a really far walk.
It's not, it's straight. It has a lot of.
One of these days, Bridget and I are gonna do it too.
Yeah, soon, one day soon in the hot weather with a backpack. We're gonna do it, yeah.
Yeah, imagine doing that this
Yeah.
week.
Oh, I know.
It's like really amazing.
If there's an invite, I'll go.
What?
I'll do that walk if you,
Okay.
if there's an invite.
We'll let you know. when we're doing
Fairwood are
it.
so isolated from everything, it's just.
We'll make it a filter for
Two
anybody who
routes
wants to
anywhere.
join us.
Okay.
Field trip. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to add, or do you have anything?
No,
else?
just clarifying, safety zone being number 1, socioeconomic and distance kind of being number 2 tied together.
With the pieces of distance, we would want to probably just.
And I know the idea that of doing a field trip and actually checking what the kids do every day, or they have to do if they have to walk to school. That would be great to experience.
Yeah, so I'm looking at distance stuff and looking at safety zones, like both of those would maybe get adjusted a little bit.
Okay, so moving forward, should I be drafting up a
Yeah, I
board
think
policy rough draft?
so that was the timeline, so we could develop a draft policy and put it up for review and discussion. If we need to bring it back a second time, that's perfectly fine for more discussion, but we can do that a couple meetings from now. I forget what we had scheduled.
October 8th
6th.
or 6th, sorry,
Yeah.
6th, 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, the timeline, when I looked at it, seemed good to me. I did kind of, I was like, oh, depending on how things are, we might want to, because it said consent on November 3rd. And so I did wonder, like, depending on how October 6th goes.
That might be quick.
We might want it review and discussion just in case maybe not consent.
Exactly. Okay.
So it's policy, and then if another driver becomes available, then there'll be a couple options. And Jonathan is gonna do some fun chart.
Yeah, you just have to be careful if we institute something this year that we can't institute the next year, right? Then you've added busing for kids and then taking it away. So you just have to be careful about that.
Which is exactly why we weren't comfortable saying we'd roll it out in January, because we would potentially be changing the paradigm of students that are having transportation this year and then taking it away in January. So that was one of the reasons why we didn't want to do it mid-year.
Yeah.
Along with rushing that, yes.
But we are interested in design thinking. We are interested in experimenting and trying things.
I know, I gave you
And
your,
learning.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
got our ticket right here, permission to innovate.
people have been
So-
pulling those on me all year.
Even though it's, even though it doesn't, it would be
Feels like
hard, I think people would understand, like, hey, we're going to an overall system. We can do this for the next 6 months, and I think people would take 6 months. You know, I mean, I think if you said to somebody like, hey, I'm gonna give you, $500 a month for 6 months, and that's all I got, and I mean, we'll see how this shakes out, and next year you might get it, you might not. I mean, people would probably take the ride to school for their kid.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Yeah, understood.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
We also all have one. I think you have one too.
I do. I'm saving it for a big one.
All right.
Thank you, Brent, thank you, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. It's so great done.
Here too.
Yeah.
So great seeing everybody and seeing the team, and thanks for.
Thank you for coming. I know you have to get here early in the morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, board, do you need a quick break before we start our meeting?
Okay, so we're just gonna take a quick pause for, let's come back at 7:05 enough time? 7:05, okay, thank you.
The man is.
Oh, yeah, but she'll set it up. Can I just look this? I feel like it does, yeah, so I'll be like forward, back.
So like I was up there with everything last month, but I didn't have any presentations. I tried to yeah, but it was a very
Yes.
So the joke is you don't need the permission to innovate first. You have to grab that.
That's right. Yeah, I know, I don't wanna overuse that term.
Oh, I know. Good discussion.
I like
She called that she was worried that struggling down, swelling. And she called in and we said, yeah, that's vascular. You know, moved up, so. Yeah, she's in a hotel, much better. She's like, oh my God, I feel it down. Yeah. So.
No, it's actually good. I know.
Doing it all year.
Pretty much, we're a couple months, I mean, right in September, we want to share with
Okay, here we go.
The one that.
Okay, hi, it's 7:06 and.
Hola, son las 7:06.
Sorry, I stopped translation so you can start again. Sorry, Monica, we're gonna start over.
Okay,
Thank you. So it's 7:06.
gracias.
We are back.
They're gonna announce the Spanish translation. That's why she had the word here.
Right. I'm gonna just say, it's okay. So this meeting is available in English and Spanish. Would the translator please give instructions on translation services available?
Of course. Buenas noches. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración. Good evening. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in this Zoom meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you for your attention and collaboration.
Thank you. Please note that a recording is being made at the direction of the board and that the recording may capture sounds of those attending the meeting. We're on to item 4, comments from the board and the superintendent, and we can go down the line. Isabel, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, let's see. One of the biggest things this between the last meeting and this one was the CLSBA conference, 4 days of a lot of very interesting presentations and talks. One of the things I brought, also I talked with Mike, is that they had a lot of information about the bilingual seal, not the seal of biliteracy, or bilingual seal of biliteracy, which is, it can be obtained at 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 8th grade. So I know that there was a talk before about aligning our kids from the Juntos program so they can get it when they go to high school. But I think we should explore the possibility of offering that program in our projects. They were sharing a lot of data and how that incentivate kids to catch up in English and in the second language. And I think it would be great if we can offer it. Then there was a lot of talk about some art programs and about involving art programs with language education. And there was a lot of data related with some particular programs. There was one that was about movies, but also about writing and speaking and reading to make these movie documentaries. And the program was very, very attractive in general. And they had also shared tons of data about how I think the kids who enter in that program raise an average of 20 points or something. So all of the data that they were presenting were very impressive, and there were also a lot of districts that had been using these programs there. There were presentations from districts all around the state. Presenting their programs also about, in general, biliteracy or bilingual programs, but also about something called deep learning and different types of education and different ways how they have fought inequality in their districts, and the results and the data. So I think is I don't know, it will be good for us to take a look to see what we can learn from that and how we can improve from the experience of others. Then there was Well, other than that, of the conference that I had, well, tons of information. I share most of it with Mike already. Then we have been meeting quite a few times with issues related with homelessness. We met with the office of, well, actually was a special committee from the office of Otto Lee, and then there were with some members of the community that have been doing their own programs, helping families and families with kids around our district in a variety of issues related with food and homelessness and basic issues, basic needs, sorry. Other than that, well, I think those are the main issues we've been doing in these last couple of weeks, and I might have something else I'll write later to Jesus to update it.
Thank you. Michelle?
I just wanted to, since the last time, we all saw each other, but last time we were talking about this was before school started. So it was weird leaving Ellis after being there for 10 years. But I also think it's kind of a unique opportunity for me to now get to know another school really well, from the perspective of a board member. And so jumping in, now that we're at Cumberland, jumping in, you guys know I love Project Cornerstone, so I'm gonna be doing that. And excited to just help in the classroom too. Like last year at Ellis, I just done a few Project Cornerstone lessons, but I'm gonna start being in the classroom again, so that's super exciting. And then I shared this with Mike a little while ago, but I will not be at our next board meeting. John and I have not gone away in years and years and looking at work schedule and childcare. It was the only week that we could leave. So sorry to miss, but I will not be here for our next board meeting. And then just with school starting, right, jumping into reading education stuff, webinars, kind of just diving back into all the work. That's like just cool.
I saw you at back to school.
Yes.
Jeff? Okay, so I just had a couple things. I love going to the back to school nights, first time in person since 2019, right? And I got to go to a few of them. And it's just, people were just so pumped. It was like so exciting, And I was going into some classrooms and it was like 30 out of 32 parents were in the rooms in these Evergrade classrooms. And I was like, okay, because usually oftentimes there's less in 4th and 5th grade, and it was like everybody was there. So, and the teachers were excited and the kids were excited. So it was just fun. And I wanted to, I did want to say, I did want to really throw out as an idea for the board. When Michelle and I went to the all employee back to school meeting, the district Tasha gave a very brief land acknowledgement, and I would just love to get on our agenda, on a review and discussion. Just take a look at that land acknowledgement, because I really believe that, if we're saluting the flag, that maybe an appropriate thing to add to our board meeting would be to do a brief but meaningful land acknowledgement, just like we salute the flag, give a land acknowledgement, and I feel like that might be appropriate. So I don't know. Hopefully people feel, you can let Mike know, I guess, or we can.
What we can do is we can put that on for review and discussion next meeting.
Does that sound okay if we can discuss it? Okay, and then also it's just super, super hot, and so hot. It's unbelievable, and I was at an SMS today dropping something off, and the whole staff room was completely filled with children testing for doing something in there, and they were looking like they were enjoying the air conditioning, but they were really powering through, and I know you could probably talk a little about the heat or something like that, about plans for the heat, but it is on our list of things to look at, one more thing. But that's it for me. I'll send my list in.
Okay, so thanks. So just real quick, want to acknowledge the fantastic job that the teaching and learning team did in putting together the staff development day on Tuesday, and of course, that's with the principals too. I'll send you a list of the activities and there's just a range, but really focused on our district priorities. I think you'll appreciate that. And I think just that same positive feeling, and I would add like a commitment and focus of purpose that you noticed in the back to school nights is present with our teachers and staff about let's get to work. That's our educators have wanted nothing more than just to do their jobs without interference or extra barriers, and they're able to do it now. People are feeling pretty good about it. So that's exciting. The other good thing about the professional development day, staff development day, was that it was on the hottest day. So that worked out really well. Jeremy said that he planned that when he put together the calendar a couple of years ago. I don't know that I believe that. But actually, all kidding aside, it did allow us an extra day to put together our plans. And we do have protocols to be ready. One of the teachers was saying like, oh yeah, my principal has a rainy day schedule, and then a couple of years ago she added smoky day, and then she just added heat day. So the foundation of what we do is the rainy day schedule to keep kids in, and we got some guidelines from the county and even from the state that kind of give us some metrics around 95 degrees is when you want to keep kids in. There's some discretion around that, and our principals have done a really good job with that. I want to particularly compliment Paul, our new Director of Student Services, because he was interfacing with the principals during all that, coming up with the plans. And then I want to acknowledge Principal Vince over at SMS. That school has 17 rooms without air conditioning, and it's really the last school, we know it's the last school to be modernized. And I appreciate that the board prioritized that when last spring, when we were talking about, well, as we attack Sunnyvale Middle School, like what are the priorities? And that's one of the highest priorities, and I think it should be. I think there was a time when people felt that hot days weren't that common, and if it was a little bit hot, it was okay or something like that. I think that's the number of hot days is the wrong metric to look at. Really the metric to look at is like, how do we create optimal learning conditions? And even an 85-degree day is too hot for optimal learning conditions. So I appreciate that. Talked to Brant again this afternoon and said, okay, and I think at the October 6th meeting, we're gonna kind of go over some, like where we are in facilities, and we can kind of talk about like what the timeline is for the renovation at Sunnyvale Middle School. We will we're already starting the process of identifying architects, and we'll be in the design phase in the spring. So we can go into more detail on that. And air conditioner should be a priority on that. And I just, one of the things that they did at Sunnyvale Middle School is they've never done this before, but they identified the rooms that had air conditioning and created a grid, and teachers who had rooms available because it was the preparation period opened those up, and not a single teacher that I'm aware of denied that and just allowed their colleagues and other students in. So there weren't enough rooms to accommodate all the kids because there's just too many air conditioned rooms. But that collaboration was very positive. So I want to thank the team for their collaboration, and especially the team over at Sunnyvale Middle School. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, it's time for item 5, comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. If there is an official representative online, please use the raised hand feature if you wish to speak. Okay, seeing none. Item 6. Oh, Isabel? Yeah.
Yeah, can I get one more thing? As we're asking, we're saying things that we would like to add for discussion next time. There was something that I think I talked a few times with Mike too, but it always get in the back boiler, in the back room. It's about, related with social studies. As a Scout parent, I noticed that there is a lot of difference between different schools with the setting of the flag in the morning and taking it down. Sometimes it's the janitor, sometimes is somebody, I don't know really, different people, and some of them have different ways to lower it. And I think that is an opportunity for learning, like maybe having some students in charge in the morning and in the afternoon and learning the protocols of how to do it. And I noticed a big difference between what we do in the Scouts and all this protocol, touching and doing everything around the flag, and the way how we treat the flag in each school. So I think that maybe something that we could look at. And maybe that would be also a nice project for the kids to do. That's it, sorry.
No, thank you, Isabel. And to me, that's not controversial. That's something that we should just do. We need to have a respectful, consistent practice on that. So looking at Brant, we can talk about how we can make that happen. I think that's important. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, item 6, comments from the California School Employees Association. If there's an official representative online, please use the raise hand feature if you wish to speak. Okay, seeing none. Item 7, comments from the public. This is the time to comment about things not on the agenda. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest to the public. However, provisions of the Brown Act Government Code 54954.2a and .3 preclude any action being taken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. In plain speaking terms, the board can only receive information during this time. We cannot speak about or speak to items that are not on our agenda. Time limits allocated to public testimony are 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes for public comments. Speakers are asked to give their name and affiliation so that an accurate record is reflected in the minutes. If you are in person, oh, it's not here. Anyone in person? Bring your speaker card. If you're online, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay. We're on to item 8, presentations. Summer School Programs 2022. Welcome, Ms. Valentine.
Thank you so much. Brant is clearly taller than I am. All right, can you hear me? Okay, good evening, board, colleagues, and members of the public. Christina Valentine, she, her, hers. I have the honor of starting, so I would be remiss if I didn't start with just a lot of gratitude and thanking the team. I think Tasha said this the best, which is starting summer school is launching a school year while we're in a school year across the district for a good number of students, but also for 4 weeks. So it is a huge endeavor. So I wanted to thank the staff that aren't represented here tonight, our classified staff who make it happen, our teachers who make it happen, and our administrators. So this summer we had Tara Herning, Warren Scott, Karen Garcia, and LV Elwood doing a phenomenal job. Represented, and they're going to introduce themselves, John, Kay, and Chin Chin did a phenomenal job this summer. Jane Chen is also here, our newest member of the teaching and learning team, and Ruth Ann Costanzo, the director of clinical work at Stanford. So I just want to start with 4 words: robust, rigorous, inspiring, and joyful. We're proud of our students over summer, and we're mostly proud of the identity that they have when they leave summer. They're excited about learning, they're excited about what they did over summer, and we think that reinvigorates them coming into the school year. We're also very proud of our partnership with Stanford. This has been longstanding and really helps us foster best practices in our classroom. With our equity lens, we work to combat summer slide. This is a phenomenon that outlines how summer can contribute to exacerbating opportunity gaps that can exist between our middle and low income students in reading and math. And also, we know that our students with IEPs can definitely benefit from services over summer. And so Chin Chin will talk more about that. We must continually strive to offer programs and services that equalize and counteract opportunity gaps that can exist within our systems and structures. And without summer programming, we could see, time check. Okay, I'm doing good. Sometimes I get excited and I start talking faster too. But without summer programming, we could see an overall loss that would translate into the school year. So summer programming is a way for us to bridge the end of the school year over the summer into next school year. So really what we see are gains with our students over the course of the school year. So our summer programs are wide and varied. We could easily spend 20 minutes on any one of them, and we run many over the summer. So with that, I will turn it over to John.
Oh. What is this, a PDF of the presentation? Oh. Right. What's going on here? Okay, uh-oh. Oh, no, I actually did something. Am I still being seen? I turned the camera off. Let me go. Okay. I know how technology works. Okay, there we go. No. Wear many hats right now, not technology. Yeah, okay. So we run a variety of programs. We have ESY, which Chin Chin's going to talk about a little bit in a little bit here. Summer Explorations, which is where the majority of the students are served, and we have it both at elementary and at middle. We have a partnership, as Christina had mentioned, a long-standing partnership with Stanford this year at San Miguel site and at Columbia. And then in addition to that, we have other schools also that didn't have the same collaboration with Stanford. And then we also have a special Bridge to Kindergarten program this year, which is unique in that we kind of built that ourselves, where previously we had partnered with a different organization. So we were able to bring that back. KLAS, so providing after school this year at the elementary sites, which again, just like busing, that's one of these things that is really, really instrumental to some families. And that is the only reason that they'd be able to attend is if we can offer this after school. So hugely important there. And also something new this year, we had Lindsay Simon, who is a current KLAS site lead, kind of coordinate the whole program, which is great. And then Social Skills Camp, which Chin Chin will also talk about in a bit. So looking at our program numbers, I'm getting like a little echo that really is distracting.
So I've been turning that on and off. I wonder if that was what was affecting as
I think
well
that could be.
earlier.
It's really hard when you hear your.
Because sometimes I'll hear it and sometimes I won't hear it throughout the meeting.
I'm going to stand back a second. Maybe I won't hear it as much. Okay, so our program numbers, we did so good with retaining students this year and also just making sure that within that first week, so we have a lot of students historically in the first week that drop out due to either a change of plans, they had vacation, they didn't let us know until last minute, there's a lot of different things. So we try to not disrupt the program past that first week, because since it's only 4 weeks, if we kept adding students and changing the class, it really disrupts the dynamics. So that first week, we do such a huge job of like calling every single family that doesn't come, trying to figure out also for our own purposes, is there something we could have done to keep you here in the program? But then immediately going to the small wait list that we have. And this year we were able to clear everyone off that wait list. So anyone that needed summer school that had requested or had somehow, contact us, we were able to serve them, which is great. So 855 was on day one, on the last day, 803, which is really good. After school enrollment across the 3 elementaries that offered it, 233 students, which is a lot. And then 18 were at the social skills group. So the student recruitment that we do is site-based. So we leave it up to the sites because they really know their students the most. But that being said, and while we were able to also serve everyone that needed summer school, you can see that this also really reflects a lot of our priority groups, the state's priority groups, and groups of students that historically are underserved. So this is over the whole program, so elementary and middle school, the demographic makeup. So 44% socioeconomically disadvantaged, 54% English learners, and then the largest demographic population here with ethnicity is Hispanic, followed by Asian and then white. And then our numbers by the years. And I apologize for not being able to accurately represent 2021. and 2019. We had some changes. I'm not sure about the 2019, but 2021, we had some changes in the way that we enrolled in PowerSchool. And actually, thanks to Jeremy, now we can. He kind of figured out we have to do this weird virtual school thing in PowerSchool so that it doesn't mess up the enrollment year to year during the actual calendar year. And so he found a way this year that now moving forward, we're going to be able to more easily kind of track. So at one point last year, it was kind of a mess of students that had attended summer school previously and those that were attending that year were all kind of assigned to the same site, which actually made messaging hard too, because we couldn't just select everyone at the summer school site and message out, because we found it would have been messaging previous students that aren't even in summer school this year. So we found a way to kind of tease that out. And so each year we have just the students that are there. But the neat thing about this is now we're going to be able to progress monitor if we wanted to in certain ways. The students that have attended summer school, it's easier to be able to kind of progress monitor if we want to look into that later, which is good.
That's a clarifying question. So
Yes.
last year we had every school site, we were open at every school site, right? Were we?
No.
Well, no, but more.
Which ones?
Yeah, last year, I always have to remember the last like 3 years were a blur and all a little different.
But what was your question? Oh, so the clarification
We had
question
multiple
was, like,
sites.
so if this, do you still feel like this is the largest year? Like
Yes,
the
yeah.
highest enrollment year?
Yeah, because I tried to look in other ways to see, because I can't do it the normal way that I do, which is pulling from PowerSchool at each site or whatever. But looking at even just the number of teachers, we definitely served more this year, which is really good. Great, and then Chin Chin, hand it off to you.
Pass the baton. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chin Chin. I'm a Behavior Intervention Services Coordinator, and during summer, I play the role of ESY Coordinator. Is my voice good? Yeah? Okay, cool. So let me talk a little bit about summer staffing. So as you can see on this chart here, we had about 51 teachers, and we actually had more step teacher candidates, 61 of them, and we actually had our own teachers, which is really awesome, right? In terms of just the amount of support in classrooms and the amount of support we were able to have, and I guess experience we were able to give our candidates. And then if you look at the graph on the right over there, it shows you the proportion of staff who are actually internal versus external for our teachers. And you can see a huge proportion of them is actually external, especially in the middle school. And so, here we want to just give a shout out to Stanford, because they did a lot in terms of recruitment and helping us get our external candidates in. And a lot of them were actually previous STEP graduates as well. So that partnership continues, and it's great to see. Speaking of it being a Herculean effort for 4 weeks of time, these are all of the additional staff that we're supporting, right? So we had like 17 and a half related service providers. We had 1 part-time SLPA. We had 73 support staff, 12 front office staff, and then we have an additional support in terms of having that KLAS coordinator, a social worker intern, and all of our food service and ops workers and everything. So in total, when I counted it up, it was over 215 staff to run all of our programs this summer. Some highlights from this. You can see that we had 3 social workers and 1 social worker intern. So that really enabled us to have a social worker at each site, because we had 4 sites this summer on a daily basis. So that meant that we could, respond to any attendance or family, social emotional needs immediately with our social worker. It also enables us to do things like what's pictured on the left there. That is our social worker intern at Bishop running daily indoor recess and classes for each grade. So every week, each grade got 1 indoor recess time every week. So that was really nice, even though it didn't get as hot as it is now in the summer. Another highlight here is our day caras. So we had 7 of them this year. That's up from last year, and we extended their hours as well. And so that was really helpful, not just for doing COVID screenings and providing bus duty and recess duty, but then we were also able to utilize them to support core instruction in classrooms. So that picture up on the right here, that is one of our day paras, and he's pushing in during ELA centers. And so we were able to make sure that each teacher maybe got some time with a para to support that instruction, right? So that was really great. And they were able to connect with the staff in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. And then one last highlight I wanted to bring up here too is the KLAS coordinator. John mentioned her, Lindsay Simon. She's great, and she was able to coordinate it so that all of the campuses that were running KLAS were doing it in a coherent, cohesive way, right? So then there was consistency across those settings, and then she was able to run out and support as needs came up after school. Okay. And then, of course, there's extended school year. So Christina talked about the summer slide, and that's definitely true for our students who have special needs, right? Some of them are pretty significantly impacted. And a lot of them are impacted and demonstrate that regression, and they also demonstrate a lack of ability to recoup that progress in an equal amount of time of instruction. So let's say they go on a break for 2 weeks in the winter, they chose the regression, they come back for 2 weeks for instruction, and they're still not caught up yet. So when we see that with our students in special education, they might qualify for extended school year. So not all students with IEPs qualify if they don't show those two things, that regression and that lack of ability to recoup. But if they do, they come to this program or they're invited to it. Okay, and so that includes our students in special day classes, but it also includes our students who might be attending summer explorations, and they might be showing that recoupment just in that area of need that they have, whether it's speech or OT or whatever it is, right? So the great thing about this year was that we were able to be more integrated. ESY wasn't just special day classes, and it wasn't just at one elementary campus and one middle school campus. It was actually our special day classes were at 3 campuses. And so maybe, students who might not have come in another year came. And then our DIS or designated instructional services like OT, resource, speech, they were at all 4 of our campuses. So students who came for summer explorations but still needed that little extra support in that identified area of need, they were able to get it. Now, did we meet kind of our goals of ESY? I think we did. If you look in that lower left-hand corner, that graph, the yellow bar shows the percentage of goals in which students either maintained or made progress. And so you can see that yellow bar is pretty high, and it's been pretty consistently high, except for that one dip in that virtual year. We weren't able to run a ton of our goals there, but we're hitting about 80% success in terms of helping students minimize regression. And then just a note here about Social Skills Camp, which Jonathan mentioned. So for our students who don't qualify for extended school year, but might have some benefit in terms of some more social or behavioral programs, and who might also not be appropriate for summer exploration, we might invite them to Social Skills Camp. And that can look different ways. Maybe it's an individualized program based on the student's behavioral or social needs, or maybe it's a small group kind of thing. We generally those at Bishop and San Miguel, and that's why the numbers are pretty small. Jonathan showed you that was 18 of them. But that helped them make that bridge from the regular school year through summer to this current one. Okay, and as you can see, we had a lot of fun too. All right, passing it on to Kay.
All right, good evening. My name is Kay. I'm the coordinator in curriculum instruction assessment. As John mentioned, this year was our first year in running a district-run Bridge to Kinder program. We're invited incoming kinders that were pre-registered with our school district to come in and participate in summer explorations. When we called each family individually, a lot of the parents gave us the feedback, we're so grateful for this opportunity because our child has never gone to either preschool or some kind of formal schooling prior to entering kindergarten. So it was a very exciting opportunity, and the teacher did a lot around SEL and routines and some pre-kindergarten academic skills. So I had a really wonderful time. At the middle school level, unlike elementary school, it's a little more challenging to recruit middle school students to want to participate in summer explorations. So one of the key draws to entice them to come in was through middle school electives. And we surveyed and polled our middle school students to ask them, what is something that would make summer school better? What did you enjoy about summer school? And time after time, they kept on saying, we loved the electives. It was great to hang out with our friends, got to know my teacher better. It was something that I would look forward to. And they were able to really build that social emotional learning component into their day where they felt seen and they also felt heard. And so with that kind of confidence and building that self-efficacy, a lot of our teachers was able to use that to transfer the academic skills as well. So it was a very big win for us. And then at the elementary level, we had thematic units, and we partnered with Sunnyvale Public Library again this summer, and they were so intentional and helpful in collecting thematic books for 30 plus teachers. So in this picture, it shows a wide array of books around food and culture. And this particular classroom even had a chance to take a field trip to the local market, buy different kinds of fruit, make a salad together, and enjoy that too in community. And then they ended the year by making some Chinese dumplings. And so with those experiences, those are usually what the students remember, and is a highlight for the summer, and really cultivates that love of coming to school and reading, learning, and applying all that they learn. And then last but not least, we piloted a librarian at San Miguel, and just to see how that would work to open that space up to for the students. We were able to check out 1,056 books. Each classroom got to visit the library at least once a week. And we actually were very pleasantly surprised and excited that it was so successful. So it's something that we'll highly recommend and most likely expand in the future to other school sites. And then we also just saw it as a neat opportunity to increase that family engagement. So we hosted a literacy night, low-key summer evening. We offered dinner, free books, a bilingual read aloud, and some reading tips for the families. And it was so wonderful to see families from Lakewood, Fairwood, and San Miguel come together and enjoy the evening and engage with their child around literacy. So those are some highlights, and I'm going to pass it back to John.
So measuring success. So we have moved toward this year, we polled parents, families, also students, and then teachers. So we try to get feedback each year to kind of see what worked, what didn't work, what would entice you to come back again, what kind of things, changes that we might make or that we have made, how did that go? So one of the things that we did during the pandemic when we had the all online school was we had moved, because they're at their homes, we moved it a little bit up. So instead of starting at, or back, I don't know how you say that. Instead of starting early at 8 a.m., we started at 8:30. And so we actually thought, especially with kind of the trend of, moving school a little bit later, let's try moving summer school. We had typically started, I think, 8:15, 8 or 8:15. So we moved it to 8:30 because we did have really good feedback during the online year, but we understand that's a lot different than in person. And so we wanted to poll families to see, was this start time working for you? And I was surprised that it was actually that overwhelmingly like, yes, this is something that we need, because we have schools that start at different times. But the majority said that the 8:30 was a great start time. Some other highlights were communication. So we had one just asking about how clear communication about summer school was, because we were very explicit, learning from past years about our letter also that went out to families, very, very explicitly saying if you got a bus, if you were in the after school, if you were not, if you're considered a walker. We tried to just outline everything we could. So thinking past all the questions that we get on the first day of school or leading up to summer school. So I try to just spell out and it's definitely harder. It's more work because we have a million different variations of letters that we give to students depending on all these factors. But it made a really big difference, I think. And I did hear some parents say that. So that was something else I wanted to formally put on the survey to get info about. And then I just mentioned down here elementary, but really it's actually kind of more middle, I think, hiding their vegetables in electives and thematic units. Kay had mentioned it, but at middle school, when we're trying to recruit students, which has been a challenge, is getting all these middle school students. Like the majority of our middle school population during summer is actually made up of fifth graders that are incoming sixth. And at middle school, we have to appeal and market to the students, which is different than elementary. So elementary, we can market pretty well to the parents, and the parents will say, yeah, you're going to summer school. But middle school, I have found the middle schoolers have much more of a say in what goes on. And so a lot of the conversations when I was actually making phone calls to the family and saying, hey, you know, this is like, it's been a few weeks since we sent you first and the second invitation, just wondering, like, you know, are you planning on attending? It's going to be really fun, tell them everything. The majority of the ones that I made phone calls to said, I'll have to check in with my student to see how they're feeling, because the last time I checked in, they didn't want to go. So it's like really the students that are making that decision in middle school. So electives is the thing that we can kind of entice them to come, get them excited about school, and then, you know, focus on academics as well. And then the 5th to 6th busing, which was already kind of talked about, that was a big win. So that was looking at Fairwood and Lakewood. We were able to bus them to Columbia Middle for summer. So as mentioned in the last presentation. And then pass off.
Yeah. So happy to start the presentation and proud to end the presentation. I'm talking about our partnership with Stanford. So this has been longstanding and mutually beneficial. And ultimately that really benefits our students. So Chin Chin mentioned it, but the number of additional adults that we have on campus that are caring, building positive relationships with our students carries into the school year for many of our students. So not only does it benefit our students in terms of having many more adults to build positive relationships with, it also helps our experienced teachers build their mentoring skills when they're mentoring teacher candidates, as well as our teacher candidates that we may have a leg up later in recruiting when we're looking for teacher candidates the next year. We did focus on, I did have 2 examples here from math and ELA of where our partnership really benefits us. So with Stanford, we really focus on best practices. That can look like bringing in the best research. It can be collaboration on what does that look like in the classroom. They just have a lot of content and experiential knowledge. So the 2 examples I wanted to highlight is our work in math. So we worked on developing a math workshop model at the elementary level, which is a way of teaching where we're teaching small groups and also having our students do meaningful independent work. But it also isn't rote algorithmic information. It really is deep, meaningful tasks. So like here, example is flexible numbers and inflexible numbers as a way to talk about manipulation, as opposed to like, let's just memorize math facts. For ELA, this is a great example, middle school. Sometimes when we say we're gonna do a novel study, kids are like, I'm not into that novel. But we had Torrey Maldonado come out, he's the author of Tight, through Stanford, and the kids were riveted. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sure how much this would appeal to all of our students, but actually many of our students were excited. An example is one of the students that we know, because their parent is a staff member, went home and said, I want the other books. Wrote a letter to Torrey Maldonado saying how meaningful the book was to him and said, can we be in contact? So that was like a moment for that student that really is going to resonate for their lifetime and career. That is the end of our presentation, but I do want to give some time to Ruth Ann. Yeah, of course. Without whom we wouldn't have a partnership.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity once again to say I feel at home in this boardroom. I've been associated with your district for a long time and have watched it continue to grow to best meet the students in your districts and the families that you serve. You are a school district that has insight and a commitment to serve the students that are in your community. And I think many of the core values that we have at Stanford around what we're looking for our graduates to implement in their classrooms are ones that are thriving in your schools. We are working on developing equity, justice, community, joy, and love in classrooms. And we had this rich opportunity this summer to once again partner with you, your teachers, and some of our grads to bring all that up front for the students as well as for our teacher candidates. So not only is your school district preparing the next generation of citizens, you have done a great service by preparing the next generation of teachers. And there has been a significant difference for us this year. We saw it during summer, and we're feeling it right now in that our student teachers had the opportunity to have 4 weeks to get to know kids, and most importantly, to learn how to communicate with their cooperating teacher. And they have a running start into their career and are really thriving in their placements currently. So thank you. I want to also give you an accolade. You hired 4 male teachers at one of your elementary schools. And it's Bishop Elementary School. And the 4 step grads sent me a video of the Bobcat Band. So you are making a real impact and a mark on education. Thank you. And I look forward to continuing our partnership.
Thanks, Ruth Ann. And I'll also add, Bishop, since you brought that, Bishop has a goal of hiring for diversity. And they also have a goal of hiring at least 1 bilingual Spanish-speaking teacher at each grade level. And I think
they did it.
accomplished that. And a lot of them are your graduates.
Those 2 are ours. And, you know, I thank you as a board. I also need to thank the team this summer. You know, Jonathan's been with us for a long time as a cooperating teacher and then as a tech person, and just helped us thrive this summer. And Kay was a new addition to our team, and I thank you for your patience with trying to understand what Stanford was all about and helping us really make a mark at San Miguel and Columbia. And Karen is not here tonight, but she has been a longstanding administrator during summer, and her leadership, her passion for the summer programs truly makes our teacher candidates feel so welcomed and learn from her. But most importantly, I want to thank Christina, because it was, I think, a real lift to pull the team together, to pull summer school off after not having it for 2 years. And your commitment, your communication skills and dedication really came through. Thank you. Chin chin. What can I say? You've been a summer school leader for a while, and we're just really indebted to what you're doing for our special needs students. And we want to continue to learn and grow. Thank you.
Thank you for your partnership. We value it.
Thank you. So, before the board gets into it right now, is there any member of the public who'd like to speak about the summer school programs 2022? Please use the raise hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board, any questions or comments?
I have some.
Isabel, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I also wanted to thank the summer school team, well, for letting us go and give us that tour. It was great, and we saw happy kids. We saw kids giving presentations of all the stuff they learned. We saw kids making dumplings, putting together the gardens, and eating the food that they got from the gardens. It was really a great experience, and we saw all the learning that happened during that short period. That it was amazing. And also all the camaraderie and the love between the kids. Also very impressive, the classrooms, the special education classrooms. But I was wondering if maybe not for this year, but from last year, if we have some sort of data or something quantitative that we can see, like the difference between kids who went to the summer camp and how they, when they came back, were they in a better level that the kids who didn't make it? Like, can we show that as a way to bring more kids next year? Is there some numbers other than, you know, the surveys, that how the people feel and how the families and the kids felt about the summer program? Is there a data in numbers? Are they reading better? Are they doing better that we can show for that? Or it's difficult to measure? I don't know.
Yeah, so Stanford has also offered to help in this endeavor.
Oh, we have a really good assessment team
Yeah.
at Stanford. They can help collaborate on what you can measure in 4 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
And how to design a survey.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Sometimes the challenge, you know, measuring within those 4 weeks is a challenge, but seeing the impact afterwards, like now that Jeremy's kind of fixed the enrollment part in Power School so that we can, so yeah, we can progress monitor those students because now we're able to see this student attended summer school. So we would have to, I'd have to put some thought into kind of finding a control group, thinking like similar, if I can think of like similar demographics of those that maybe even students that were invited that are similar demographics to those that attend, but maybe just didn't attend. I can monitor kind of and see what kind of academic progress. I think another thing that would be interesting that I'm curious about is the BTK students. So, because I just know when I was personally reaching out to a lot of these families, they were really, really appreciating that we offered something for them because we did specifically look for those that were pre-registered but had no prior schooling that we could see. So what I would like to see is somehow kind of surveying the teachers that they're now with to see their readiness. So I'm trying to think of a way to to do that without leading them and saying like, yeah, how's this one doing? But you know,
we have beginning of year data for all
we do.
these
So I can
kids,
do,
so-
yeah, I can run some
That way, then you'll
academic.
be on the camera for Zoom people.
There you are.
I was just letting
I know,
Christina
I know.
this whole time. But yeah, so we can do that. We can do that based on academics since I can, yeah, that's something that I can do. The BTK one, I'm really interested also in just kind of like kindergarten readiness, you know, when it comes to even, because I was really surprised and impressed by the end of summer, seeing these students that had no prior schooling, just knowing how to follow routines. I mean, it looked like a kindergarten class, which is pretty, but yeah, we can do that. So using our regular benchmarks, I can, just like I run any of the other demographic groups, I could also create a summer group and kind of see comparatively how they do. That's a good idea.
And did they achieve the goal of not hitting the summer slide? Like I saw for the ESY kids, I didn't see if there was a chart. I asked for it and they said it'll be in the presentation. So I'm just wondering if you happen to have that yet.
We don't have it right now. So they're
Okay.
finishing up the beginning of the year benchmarks this next week, I think. And so once that's over, then I'll be able to do that. So what I can do is I can pull out the summer school kids specifically, and I can look at like end of year data versus beginning of year data. And again, I'd have to do it probably versus like another control group to see what kind of slide did they have versus the summer school.
Anything else, Isabel, while you're there? So I had a couple questions in the packet, and one of them was about, you know, maybe it's an additional offering, or maybe it's a different lens. But the idea that the summer school program at some point was designed to prevent summer slide. And I love the idea of creating experiences so that it's, you know, families who aren't sending their kids to Camp Galileo, the kids are getting a joyful, exciting, you know, enriching, rigorous experience, right? They're getting hands-on learning, they're getting all that stuff through us. What I'm concerned about for the middle schoolers especially is the idea that we have a bunch of kids who are a grade level or two below grade level. And we as board members are getting marketed by summer school programs that are offering to bring your kids up, your one grade level over the summer. And the programs are more intensive, they're all-day programs, they're different. But, you know, I'm really worried about those kids that we are sending into high school who are just not academically prepared. And I'm not saying kill and drill, have them recite, you know, things over and over and just bore them to tears. I'm talking about like engaging them, maybe it's full day because there is enrichment or something like that. And I don't know what the program looks like, and I don't know what they're trying to sell us, you know, all of us that they're marketing us. But I think that, you know, we owe these kids, you know, an opportunity to try to intentionally make up a grade level over the summer if other people are doing it. And I don't know how long, I don't know if it's all summer. I mean, I really don't know enough because I was kind of like, you know, have you heard of this? And Mike's heard of them and Mike's worked with them, the one particular one. but I just think it's a mindset, right? It's like, are you preventing summer slide? Or are you gonna go and aggressively try to get jam this kid up to another grade level? And, that could also be a huge challenge and very exciting and done in a really cool, awesome way. I don't know how we do that. But anyway, so that's my question for the team. Have you guys talked about that? Has it always been, is it just traditionally it's creating this other kind of experience, or what do you think? And it's not a surprise question because I've been in it.
Yeah, Christina, you can go, there might be a Tasha question or two, you can kind of.
Yeah, I think what we continually work on is reinventing what summer looks like. We keep design thinking it, like how can we make sure that it is a draw for students, like if we're talking specifically about middle school. But like with every program, we look and see what the successes were, and then see like how we can improve. So like the suggestion of looking at like full day opportunities for students, saying like this is how we accelerate is definitely something we want to look into. And we also want to see what the interest level is. I think what John and Kay clearly articulated is it's been a real challenge for us to recruit in middle school students, even when we say this can be an accelerated program, this isn't. We shifted a while ago to saying that it's not only intervention, it is also enrichment because it had a negative connotation attached to it. So we're trying to make it more robust and appealing. And that's worked for us in terms of recruiting more students. And also that means that we hide vegetables, which is we make things exciting as well as academically enriched, accelerating.
Can I add also, so we had maybe 2 years ago, I think, we had partnered, and again, it was hard recruiting because we had targeted, I think, middle, we tried it elementary and actually didn't work out so well, but we had partnered with Elevate Math. And so we had a couple classes, and it is a really strong program. And that's one that last year or the year before, we had tried partnering with again, but we were in person and they were still virtual. It was really difficult to make it work. And so when they are fully back in person, because that program, it's all math all day, but it also has a college connection, career ready, like it's a great program, it's a great partnership. And we'd like to do it again. I've kept the door open, we're in communication. So when their program becomes back all in person, I think that's something that we could look into again. Because that is kind of meeting what you're looking for. And again, it was hard to find, I think we had 1, maybe 2 classes at the middle school, but that was pushing it. It was very hard to get students and they were really small classes. But for those students, it offers a great benefit. The difference between having their program all online and us doing it in person, it was such a disconnect though, because the professional development that our teachers went to was showing how to do everything virtually. And so they had to do a ton of work. We had extra meetings where we were trying to transfer those skills over to, okay, how do we do this? And then the same with the collaborative groups, because you meet with Elevate, you meet with other district teachers and they collaborate, but it was weird. So that's something that I would like to bring back and I think would fit what you're looking for. I'd be interested if you saw other kind of opportunities for reading, because that was math specific. In addition to what we do.
And then also, like, we have just heard, I think Michelle and I, when I first came on the board, Michelle and I went to a thing and they were talking about how they got people to their summer school program, and it was someone down in like Almadovan Valley, and a superintendent, she was saying, we just started telling them how much it costs, and what we're basically offering you, like everyone says you want your kid to do better in school, but like this is $1,000 on the table right now. There are $500 on the table right now that we're putting towards your child's education. And are you going to take it, or are you not going to? Are you going to walk away from it? And that's a little harder to walk away from,
Oh, it's a way of marketing. Just say this is a $500 program. You want it.
Yeah.
Middle school would still say, "Hold on, let me ask my kid."
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting concept where we can apply using empathy interviews, so we can find out from the student perspective as well as the parent perspective what would be the draw for you. Like this is how much we spend. This is you have expressed concern that your child isn't at grade level. What is it that we could do, whether it's like a longer day, whether it's past the 4 weeks, because we also know that in the 4 weeks, there are gaps on either end. So I think maybe this is where we can start doing that work in preparation for next year, because we start planning for summer right around the corner in December.
I had another question for about the Stanford team. Like, the students that were there this year, it was before they actually started their teaching credential program, or like they were taking a class in conjunction, is that right? Like it wasn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I noticed in talking to some of them, like there were just some phenomenal, really motivated people, but there were some other ones who had just they like finished graduation and they got on a plane and they flew into Sunnyvale and they were like completely like, whoa, like I have to walk around, I have to get off my phone, like they were not prepared in that way, right? And I think by the end of the time, they were like completely understanding what it was and they were fully engaged. And so I think you're right. I think it's going to make their time much more effective. And I know that the kids really benefited from them. So because they all were all sharing their stories and the kids really like responded to having these young people who seemed very cool in the room. You know what I mean? Like, so it was just like,
Are you
so
saying
many.
we're not cool? I mean,
Yeah, equally as cool as you, obviously, right? But I mean, it was just like it was so clear that they just even the you know, like, oh, you went to college, like that was for the
That's priceless
positive,
in and of
right?
itself.
Yeah.
Right. And that many of our students are from backgrounds similar to the students that were in summer school, and that they could see someone like them is at Stanford University, and the students would say, and you can do that too.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Thank you for
know,
that.
if you make a mark on 10% of those students, just think of what you're doing to change the lives.
Yeah, so and I also loved going by and seeing
you were
dumplings
great.
and stuff. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything else? So thank you for the presentation and all your time and effort and energy, and can't wait to see you next year.
Okay, for a minute there, I broke the iPad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
team.
Okay, we're on to item 9, review and action. 9A is approval of 2021-22 unaudited actuals. It's recommended that the board approve the annual financial report, which contains the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 2021-22. Hello, Lori Mango.
Aloha. I'm super tired, so I apologize if I make any speech errors. Super.
We love
You're
jokes.
always good.
I'm not a joking person, but the numbers don't lie. Okay, so here's our highlights of 21. Was it? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll take it. So these are the highlights of our 21-22 school year. Our LCFF, state aid, EPA, and parcel tax came in as projected at 5.3 million.
Lori, could you move closer to the mic? Because I think, yeah, I think I'll pick it up a little better.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
No worries. Our property tax and RDA revenue were up 6.1 million over 2021 for a total of $91.7 million. Our 21-22 property tax growth was about 5% or 4.4 million. Our 21-22 RDA funds were $4.3 million, which is 1.16 increase over 2021. In 21-22, we got one-time CARES Act or COVID relief funds for a total of $6.4 million. The expenditures for these funds included salaries and benefits for teachers, paraeducators, social workers, nurses, TOSAs, as well as some summer food service salary and benefits, contracted therapy services, software license, and additional KLAS support. Our expenditures in 21-22 increased to $117.6 million, which is a $13.9 million increase over 2021. The increase is driven by salary schedule increases, the SEO TOSAs, health assistant FTE increases, the continuation of our independent study program,
person STIRS increases, and a significant cost increase for COVID testing for staff and students. Additional support for our student nutrition program in 21-22 decreased by $174,000. Our additional support for stage preschool increased by $20,000. The contribution to routine repair and maintenance was up $418,000. And the total special ed contribution was $15.9 million, which is a $2.1 million increase over 2021. And finally, a contribution decrease in our overall staff computer refresh program. So just the highlights of the 22-23 revised budget. Based on the current property tax projections, our property taxes are expected to increase 7% over 21-22 for a total increase of $5.6 million. LCFF, EPA, and parcel tax revenues are projected slightly lower than 21-22 at $5 million. The budget includes one-time CARES Act funding for Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, or ESSER, Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, also called GEAR, the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, and the In-Person Instruction Grant. Planned expenditures include the DSS TOSAs, teacher and para salaries and benefits, as well as food service summer salaries and benefits, summer school programs, and HVAC upgrades and repairs. Based on current information, our charter school property tax payments are projected at the 21-22 level of $875,000. Student nutrition and child development have a combined projected contribution of $1.3 million, $1 million of which is for child nutrition. But I do anticipate that number decreasing as we continue throughout the school year with the Universal Meals program coming on. Based on current revenue and expense projections, the contribution to special education for 22-23 is projected at $23 million, which is approximately a $3.2 million increase over 21-22. And also included in the revised budget are all the negotiated salary schedule increases, including STIRS and PERS changes. So this is a multi-year look at the ratio of revenue to expense. Our 21-22 fiscal year ended with revenue exceeding expense by $4.6 million. Our 22-23 revenue projection is $123.2 million, which is an increase of $949,000 over 21-22. And the 22-23 expenditure projection is $125.6 million, which is a $7.9 million higher than 2021. And based on the assumptions in the revised budget, expense is projected to outpace revenue by $2.4 million. This is a multi-year look at the general fund beginning and ending balances. General fund ending balance increased significantly in 21-22, but that increase is expected to slightly decline in 22-23. This is due in part to shifting unrestricted expenditures in 21-22 to one-time CARES Act funding and then moving them back to their original funding sources in 22-23. So this is also a multi-year look at our unrestricted reserves, which is a combination of the unrestricted general fund and the special reserves fund 17. 21-22 ending reserve balance is $43 million, $4 million of which is set aside for future technology upgrades, site and department carryover, revolving cash and stores, which leaves 21-22 reserves at $39 million. In 22-23, based on the revised budget assumptions, we're projecting to have unrestricted reserves of $41.4 million. A portion of that has been set aside for current requirements in future projects, such as revolving cash stores, the Lakewood Library project, future textbook adoptions, future maintenance projects, increase in tax pass-throughs for charter schools, and future technology upgrades. So finally, just to quickly tie it up, 21-22 unrestricted reserve balance is $29.3 million. The special reserve fund ending balance was 13.7 for a combined unrestricted reserves of 43 million or 37%. And we have positive ending balances in the multi-year projection, and we will maintain our basic aid status.
If there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature now. Seeing none, board, we need a motion.
I move to approve the annual financial report, which contains the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
I second.
Isabel can do it.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. Thanks anyway, Michelle. Board, any discussion or questions or comments? Okay, the ones in the packet were all answered, so yeah, we're good. So let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the chair votes aye and the motion is passed.
Thank you.
On to item B, approval of the 2021-22 GAN limit. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve resolution number R2305 for the adoption of the GAN limit in accordance with the California Government Code. Ms. Van Gogh.
So this is something that the state software actually automatically calculates year over year based on, I think, 7879 Proposition 4 from Mr. Paul Gann. So the state is actually, we have exceeded our GAN limit every single year since I've been here. So the state is looking at eliminating different revenue streams, and this year they decided to eliminate the routine repair and maintenance contribution that the general fund makes to support that program. And as a result, we did not exceed our GAN limit for the first time since I've been here, and when I was at San Jose Unified, the same for years. So before you tonight is the approval of the GAN limit with us not exceeding our GAN limit.
Okay, is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this item? Please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, board, we need a motion.
I move, the board approves resolution number R2305, adoption of the GAN limit.
I'll second.
Okay, board, any questions or comments? No? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion has passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Lori. That was hilarious. No. She wanted to be funny. Okay, sorry. That was good.
That was good, thank you.
All right, item C, approval of resolution R2307 in the matter of authorization to participate on the lower emissions school bus program. It's the recommendation of the district staff that the board authorizes and approves resolution in the matter to authorize participation in the lower emissions school bus program. Reverence.
Yeah, that was perfect summary. I'm asking for permission to participate. This grant opportunity would give us money for an additional or replacement of an existing bus.
Okay, if there's any member of the public who'd like to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, none, board, we need a motion.
I move to authorize and approve resolution R23-07 in the matter of authorization to participate in the lower emissions school bus program.
I second.
That was good too. Very supportive.
Okay, we're gonna give that one to Michelle. Okay, any discussion or comments from the board on this? Other than very excited?
I like getting money.
Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the chair votes aye. Motion is passed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brett. And I think you're still sticking around for this one. It's item D, approval of the addendum to the master agreement for architectural services with ADIS Architects.
Yes, so we have a original master agreement with ADIS Architects dating back to 2005, and the last amendment to this agreement happened in 2009. This amendment to that agreement would allow ADIS Architects to submit a fee-based proposal on projects coming under the $2 million limit as set forth in the amendment. For background, prices of 2009 are not what prices are currently in regards to ADIS's consultants and their fees. There have been multiple times in which recently I've held them to the old contract and the percentages set forth in that agreement, to which the architecture firm doesn't necessarily make money on it. This is of no risk to the district. This is not an agreement with them. I do not have to enter into any agreements or proposals they bring forth. This allows them to present a proposal based on their services coming in from their consultants, as well as the services broken down by their departments for me to approve. It offers more flexibility to an architecture firm that is more accurate to what the costs they are actually seeing are today.
Okay, is there a member of the public who'd like to speak on this item? If so, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, seeing none, board, we need a motion.
I move that we approve the addendum to the master agreement with ADIS Architects.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff, for seconding.
I was watching.
Okay. Board, any questions or comments? My only question is, why not just open up the whole thing? Is there just was that just a dollar amount number?
Yeah, so this speaks specifically to the percentages set forth in that agreement, and this offers flexibility. There would be nothing else needed to be revised at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dr. Gallagher alluded to it earlier. We're in the process of creating an architect pool, and agreements will be reviewed during that process as well. So.
Okay. All right, board, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, board, the chair votes aye, and the motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item F. Yeah, thank you. You said, Brandon. Can't wait for that field trip. We're going to go on the field trip. The walking field trip from Lakewood to CMS.
Yeah. Like I said,
Okay.
invitations there, please email me. I will make it happen.
Excellent. Okay, item F, approval of your, oh, sorry, typo. Okay, item E, so this is gonna be a problem for me going down. Item E, approval of verification of requirements. No?
Supplemental materials.
Oh, I just skipped the whole thing. Okay, item E, approval of supplemental materials. Christina Valentine, there you are.
I'm here. And actually, when I sit down, when I have to look here through I'm not tall enough. So supplemental materials are materials that we use in the district to supplement, not supplant, so we're not replacing our board adopted materials. We also know that students have a wide range of needs, and we teach students, we don't teach curriculum. So in looking at students and what they need, we want to have a wide variety a wide varied bank of resources in order to best meet their needs. So that's where we have supplemental materials.
Great. If there's any member of the public who'd like to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board, we need a motion.
I move that we approve the list of supplemental instructional materials.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions?
I would say I just like that phrase that you used, but now I lost it in my head. That we don't teach curriculum, we teach students. That was just a really good phrase I hadn't heard before.
Oh, thanks.
Or maybe I heard it and it didn't click in my head if I heard it before.
Well, thank you.
Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, chair votes aye, and the motion's passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Item F, approval of verification of requirements for provisional internship permit for Megan Zito, special education teacher, Vargas Elementary School. I don't see who's up. Jeremy. Jeremy, hi.
Yes, hello. Before you, from time to time, we bring the request for provisional internship permits, which is authorizing by the CTC, your authorization for a candidate to be teaching in the classroom pending the outcome of the credential. So we do this from time to time. for hard-to-fill positions. Special education is a hard-to-fill position, and please note that the candidate has completed her special education credential program and is just pending her examination results. So the PIP would allow her to teach in compliance, which she's doing at this time. So I recommend you approve the PIP, please.
Okay, if there's any member of the public who'd like to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board, we need a motion.
I move approval of the verification of requirements for a provisional internship permit for Megan, how do you say the last name?
I think it's Seto.
Seto.
I'll second.
Thank you. Board, any questions or comments? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the next item is approval of the revised governance handbook. Dr. Gallagher.
Hi, actually, I think you know more about this than I do. So we have the revised governance handbook here that has all of the edits that were suggested at the last meeting. I think, Bridget, you worked with Jesus on this. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Isabel and I worked it up and we brought the draft last time. And I think we were just waiting for cabinet to confirm, just like some of the programs that were in there. And I believe that was all done. And there was one section where it had people who are no longer with the district, and that's all been cleaned up. So, I think it's something we're gonna look at again, probably with a new team member. So I think if we can pass it, I think that would be appropriate and helpful because there's not much more to do. And Nancy did ask for some additional reworking in language. And while that we just sort of went with the spirit of what she was saying and changed some language that was instead of saying handling disagreements, for example, we just said explaining board discussion or something like that. Like we just made it much more neutral. So it was less about tell us why you're just voting no and not explaining anything to us. It was just more like, this is why we want to have law partnership and listen to each other's ideas. So it's just very neutral. And we can refine that more if we want to do so next year. So I'm hoping we can just approve it. And it will not be perfect. You will find a typo, I guarantee. I don't know why. It's driving me crazy, but it will be there. So anyway, I hope we can approve it, especially with the new person coming on board. So if there's, I guess that was my pitch. So if there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, board, we need a motion.
I move to approve the revised governance handbook.
I second.
She can second.
Isabel seconds, thank you. Any questions or comments or thoughts?
So yeah, I have a few. On bottom of page 6, it's the piece about the, I'm not on right now just from my notes, but it's the piece about it's not super important if we want to exchange it, but it just seems like changing now would be helpful, I think. I was reading it in the context of like a new person, right? So we just have that sometime during the year, we're gonna have a meeting where we decide president, vice president, clerk duties and stuff. And I think it would be a helpful piece to add like on the end of that, something like usually in November. Just right, as a new person coming in, knowing when that happens, when that discussion happens would be a helpful piece.
Okay, so at the end of page 6, the second bullet point, you want to add usually in November?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the organizational meeting is
December.
in December.
Well, but that bullet point is not is it not about the day we vote, it's about the discussion that we have.
Well, we could clarify it to make sure
Yeah.
that's.
How about if we just say usually in the fall? In the fall months,
Well,
we need to,
problem is, lots of people say fall is your first.
Well, we could just say,
Well,
we could just say what we actually do. We discuss it in November and the organization.
That would be, I
meeting.
think, the most helpful,
Our
just add
person.
more wording.
That's okay.
okay,
Yeah. But if I'm a new person coming in, knowing that information would be helpful.
this will be discussed in November.
And voted on in
At the
December.
organizational meeting.
So that would be the clearest.
Yeah.
Piece, way to do it, yeah.
That's good.
And then the other, so pages 8 and 9, when I was looking through it, I was like, I don't remember this. And then so I tried to like go back to the one we looked at August 25th and was trying to line them up, and page 8 and 9 were not in there.
Oh, it wasn't there, it was just farther back. So page 9 was buried somewhere else. It was like,
Why did we have them up earlier? Like they don't seem that
okay,
important.
so page 8 is about, oh, I'm sorry. So if you look at page 7, my suspicion is page 7 was supposed to replace pages 8 and 9. But pages 8 and 9 are just giving examples of like going deeper into the
But
responsibilities.
shouldn't those be, so I thought these were something that had been created from previous boards, that expected results and success indicators, so I thought that was in that appendix of all the old history stuff.
Okay, so it wasn't in an appendix, it was like kind of in the middle. So I don't honestly know where it goes.
I think we should pull 8 and 9 out and put it in that, like, that section of like the history.
Appendices, but those are organized by year right now, and we're actually still missing 2 years. So,
And I don't think it necessarily happened, because there's ones that are like from 2000 or 2005 and then it skips them.
yeah, okay. So you wanna put this
Jeff, do you
into,
remember, are you looking at the pages I'm talking about?
I am.
Do you have any memory of these or when it happened?
No, okay.
But I think not having it in the, towards the beginning, it bogs, well, it's fine to remember. I think just having it up in the beginning, it bogs things down, like it looks like it's a
That's right.
priority, so I do not want it there, is what I'm saying.
okay, so why don't we, we could call this Board of Education exemplar results and indicators or something like that, like we could call it, because it's an example of one board's ideas for responsibilities by those responsibility areas, like expected results and success indicators. Or are these still, I mean.
I don't really care as long as it's at the end in the appendix random stuff.
Or do you wanna just
Why don't we
delete it?
just pull it?
Do I just pull it?
Why don't,
I would say yes. I would guess if Nancy was here, she would say it's historical, we need it in there.
but we don't know when it is. So,
I think it's just,
Let's just pull it for now, and then if Nancy has a severe reason, bring it back in, and she can bring it up in January.
I kind of feel like this is something that's produced by CSBA and we just carry forward.
yeah, because I think the other one is more succinct, like that's how it read to me, like the first one is just more succinct and the other one is if you want to go.
Yeah.
I do agree with Michelle, we should put it in the archive, that way if later on we discuss it, you guys want to place it back in there somewhere, at least we have reference.
Okay, so we'll just put pages 8 and 9 in appendices. Do you care what we call it?
I do not.
Okay, we'll find something fun.
And then, okay, my next note, I just realized like there was that whole new other page 15, but then when I was going back and forth, I realized that was it was replacing, I was assuming the dissenting vote, but then we shared that. And then, this is just informational, for staff, I think it was in that section that every board member should know, maybe towards the end, there were a few things that were blue, like supposed to be links, like one was a calendar, I can't remember what else. I didn't check all of them because it was like being weird on my device, but I know at least one of those links the calendar one or something, it didn't work, like we didn't go into it, it said this.
The one that is you know what it is? It's the one that's the, not the governance clock, but it's the calendar that's supposed to be the annual.
Oh,
That one, that doesn't work.
okay.
Just see the office if you want a printed copy, because it's gonna be ginormous and,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there's just, that link is broken. Sure.
So do we need to have whoever made the motion say, I amend, or the, like, change my motion to add these amendments?
I revise my motion to approve the revised governance handbook with stated revisions.
Isabel, do you second the amended
Going
motion?
into, yes, yeah, I do.
Okay, so with that, so we have the three things, the page 6, page 8, 9, and, page 6 will be clarified, this will be discussed in November and voted on in December at the organizational meeting. Page 8 and 9 will say, we're gonna move that into the historical documents in the appendices, and we're gonna, just remove the link feature for the links that don't work for the larger documents. Let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the chair votes aye, the motion has passed, and that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for all your work on that.
Yay, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's a lot of detail.
Well, Michelle encouraged me to do that when she was board president, and I never was able to carve out time for it, and then finally it was like, okay, this is it, I'm gonna make sure we do it.
One part of that was, lots of things we started that year and then COVID came.
That's right. That's right. Right. Okay, so item 10, consent agenda items. So any item on the consent agenda is subject to review and discussion prior to being approved by the board. So if necessary, any items may be removed for separate action. The public may address the board regarding any items on the consent agenda. If there's a member of the public who wishes to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Okay, seeing none, would the board like to pull any item for separate consideration and vote? Okay, seeing none, board, we need a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed.
I second.
Okay, board, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Wait, did you say aye?
Yeah, she just.
She did, okay. Chair votes aye, so the consent agenda is passed. Item 11, future meetings and adjournment. Our next meeting will be Thursday, September 22nd at 6 p.m. at the district office for a regular board meeting. Thank you. We're done. The meeting is adjourned at 8:38. It's great. It's so fun. It's like the best part of the job.
You're so self-conscious.
Thank you, Desmond and Monica. Good night, Isabel.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Aaliyah. Good night, everyone.
Good night.